Firearms instructors, are you looking for an exercise for your next shooting event? Here's one where trainees practice shooting from behind low cover, for example, a concrete planter box at the mall. You can use this exercise for live fire, dry fire, and airsoft training events.
I'm Jeff Bickford, a firearms instructor with the Armed Defense Training Association. The purpose for this exercise is to demonstrate how we can take trainees through an exercise of shooting from low cover or concealment. So you may not always be able to pick where you get into a gunfight. You're not going to have the best choice of cover. So in this case, you're going to have to use whatever's available. This drill, we show the trainees and take them through how to make best use of limited cover. So here's what it looks like in action. You can see the trainees already crouched down, engaging the bad guy from behind a cover position in some sort of kneeling position. That's the general basis for it. Now I'm going to show you how we present this exercise. Okay, so we start out this exercise with the trainees about 10 feet away from their cover position. And what I like to do here is use several different size obstacles, small box, large box, whatever, to really challenge them depending on their height and such. We start back here and at some point call a threat, at which point the trainees will run to their cover position. At this point, they're running, moving to the cover position, and drawing the firearm. Now, this could be after they get there or as they're approaching. You really need to decide what's going to be best for the skill level of your trainees and the positions that they're in. It sets up some safety issues in dealing with where the gun might be pointed, if they happen to be in a much lower position. At this point, you can see both of the shooters, or our trainees here, have gotten to a full crouch position. The guy on the far end really has an aggressive low position. Look at the foot placement. This is really important when you're setting up this drill. You want to make sure the trainees have the maximum amount of flexibility as they're doing this. You can see how the fellow in the foreground, it has one knee down and that foot has the toes facing backward. That's okay in this case because most of his movement is going to be on the left foot in this case, the one that's upright. What you don't want to do is have him have both knees down and toes pointed backwards because that provides the least amount of flexibility. In this case, you're pretty good balance either way. They've got the guns drawn and they're ready to determine how to engage the threat. Here, this was a little bit of a surprise for the guy in the foreground. He actually, after taking one or two shots, had to do an emergency reload. So his quickest method was to go down into a prone position and do his reload from there. Again, got to be cautious for safety reasons which way the gun is pointed when they're doing this. He effectively did it in this case and then went to a prone position, while the guy on the far end, you can see, is already engaging from the far side of the obstacle. Okay, so what this did is the participant on the foreground actually used that as an opportunity to quickly engage the target just by rolling over to the side. It was a little bit advanced in this case. I wouldn't recommend starting out trainees that way. In this case, the shooter was comfortable doing it. But you notice while he's rolling and shooting, the other guy is already back to a good cover position and has good foot placement. All right, so now you can see the shooter is popping up and shooting up from a different position. So this is important when you're using limited cover like this. Your cover could be true cover like a cement planter or something to that nature, or it could be simple concealment like a sofa chair or something, in the mall where it's not going to stop a bullet, but at least it obscures you. The last thing that you want to do is have the good guy sit here and keep popping out in the same direction. Then they're just a version of whack-a-mole for the bad guy shooting at them. Keep them guessing which direction that they're going to engage from. And then in this case, the shooter is either back down, which you see in the foreground, or the guy on the far end has already determined the threat has been neutralized, and he's doing an after-action assessment to turn around and make sure there's no other bad guys coming around behind him. Again, still good foot placement for him. However, remember what I was saying about having the shooter's toes pointing backwards? Now the guy in the foreground is kind of in a compromising position because he doesn't have as much flexibility here as he could have. Then at that point, the drill is over. We go ahead and say it's done. Shooters stand up and holster their firearms. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have about this exercise. Just leave them in the comments below.
I'm Ed Street, one of the producers of this series. I hope you'll get the chance to use this exercise in one of your training events. The principles it teaches apply equally well to live fire, dry fire, and airsoft training classes. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you at the range.